like, oh, he was a fantastic leader, a tactician and genius, but he sometimes verged on the tyrannical. Like, what? A Bronze Age warlord was a bit tyrannical? Was really?
Completely tyrannical.
And he was ruthless against his enemies. What an unusual trait! Fuck!
What, he succeeded?
I know, right?
Yeah, let me just get rid of that. That's alright.
What struck me about it, though, is like, obviously you take that kind of shit for granted now, so obviously we know Alexander and all that shit happened and the world was changed, but how unlikely that was at that time. Because he had about 10 blokes versus the Persians and just fucked them up. Everyone thought he was fucking mental starting that campaign.
Well, you would do. You go,
yeah.
There's me, 10 geezers from around the corner.
Yeah.
We can have you. It's like, well, I don't think you are.
What, big boy?
You know, it'd be like basically a youth player from your youth academy just suddenly scoring 15 goals a game by himself or claiming to, and then he's like, fuck me, he's actually done it. Can't believe it.
My fill me in on that actually, because my history on Alexander's not amazing.
I think the interesting thing about him as a person certainly is we don't really know that much about him. You know, obviously they were running so quick on campaign that they're running on campaign. That's a petty way of putting it. They didn't really take time to do like a biography or something of that. We just know it from kind of anecdotes and extrapolations. So obviously the concrete things you know about what he did and how he did them, like in terms of his working life. So we know what he did as a general. We know what his policies were as king, and there's only rumours of for example, he was known to be, I'm doing an air quote here, famously gay, but that wasn't really a thing in ancient Greece and Macedon. It just was like you loved a bloke and you might have had 15 others. Yeah, it wasn't loaded. It wasn't that deep.
It was, you say famously gay, as in that was a label that was given looking back at him. Or he was famously gay then.
Oh, retrospectively. Yeah. Okay. Because it just was.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
It just wasn't no thing back in the day.
Maybe a lot more people.
Sometimes you bum a man
from Game of Thrones.
That's a good shout.
I like a lot of people.
It's a good shout. Yeah. Was it they delight me?
They
equally.
please me. Yeah. Or whatever. Yeah.
They please
something
me.
like that.
I had a man and he pleased me.
Sons of Ares confessions today. For all our 3 listeners who are us, Jason has just spat his drink out in muff.
I didn't actually know you started.
Yeah, a while ago.
The clue is the light is on.
I didn't realise.
Now the light goes on when I plug it.
The light goes on.
The light isn't on.
Oh, now I look a right prick.
Now the light goes on when I plug it in.
As per usual.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we know a lot about what his exploits were, and a little bit about his interpersonal stuff, but we don't know much about him other than the speculation, which is probably true, that he was a massive narcissist. And I don't mean you'd expect
most
somebody
of them probably were at
yeah,
that point.
But this is what I'm talking about. Not someone who would be a celebrity now who'd be high on the narcissistic index just by dint of they're going to have more self-esteem and all these traits because
they have to, because that's
their life.
Amount to
exactly
coming. Yeah.
But there's quite a lot of evidence.
Think a lot of yourself to do something like that.
So to even attempt to even start.
Yeah.
But there are evidence that he had as an actual narcissistic personality disorder, that he was very up and down and would suddenly go cold on people in the way that he would suddenly execute them. Very similar kind of thing. But he had this kind of split about himself.
Kind of paranoia.
Yeah.
Which I guess it's kind of natural if you're in that position.
Yeah.
It's the sword of Damocles, right? You got the kind of...
that's one of my favourite analogies.
Yeah. Wasn't it actually recently they only found his tomb or something? Was that?
No. Alexander's... Him and Genghis Khan is still a mystery where they both are.
Or the year before?
I might be wrong, though I would think it would be a bigger deal if they found Alexander's tomb.
I thought there was some detail they found out or something, or
I don't know.
Or his actual. Don't know.
I can look it up if you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, what he basically. To be fair, this is shown in the Colin Farrell of all fucking people film, where to kind of spur him on his campaign, his mum goes, right, now your dad's dead, I'll let you into a secret. He wasn't a real dad. Your dad was actually Zeus, and he's like, seems unlikely, but could be.
Seems unlikely.
I never knew my dad, so he could be.
He could be Zeus.
Your dad was you're blonde. Your dad was Odin.
You could be Dionysus.
Oh,
there was no father.
Jason isn't really hedonistic enough to have a Dionysus as some kind of parental figure.
I don't know. He used to drink a lot of wine. Dionysus is the god of wine and madness.
And madness. After the wine.
Yeah, wine first.
Yeah, then it becomes mad.
I've never known Jace to enjoy a good bacchanalia. No.
Sorry, I'm whacking in the old Wi-Fi
Oh yeah. Cool.
very slowly.
So what was the idea of this topic?
I was hoping we would non-contrivally get into something.
Oh no, Dan started talking about Alexander and I just hit the record button.
Oh, okay.
Just,
Oh, of course he did.
This is
Either-
well, Dan
it's
started
either
talking about some kind of
Caesar-
classical war.
Yeah. Caesar. Maybe. Just anything Roman.
It's a funny thing though, because aside from the cliche of like the typing stuff we do, I often relate to like the inner worlds of these people a bit in terms of like, because Caesar was the same actually. They have this dead thing and this wall in between them, in the middle of them, where they're like, I am great, I might be God, but also I'm a piece of shit because I'm not as good as that guy. It's really interesting, and that, like you said, the sword of Damocles is always very much hanging
very
over
dark
people.
shadow.
Do you know the analogy of the sword of Damocles?
No.
It's essentially love. I don't know about all the details, but what it essentially means is you're some kind of person in a position of power, but it's tenuous, and it's like there's a sword above your head on a little bit of wire that could be snipped at any time. So you're always like, fucking hell.
Oh right, always looking over yourself.
Yeah.
So I think the story is that there's a king, a judge, and there's like his cousin who's watching him. He's a little envious of his position. He's like, oh, you're this, like you have all these women, you have all this opportunity, money, wine, food, and all the rest of it. You're always miserable. Like you don't seem to enjoy it. And then the king says, well, why don't you sit here for a little while, for a day? You're not allowed to move off of the throne, and I'm going to hang this sword above your head, and you will understand how it feels to be king. Because the point is that when you're in this position of king, you've got people around you who are trying to manipulate you, who are trying to attack you, who are like chumming up to you,
or
being
literally
really nice,
assassinate you.
or literally assassinate you. And it's like this constant state of perpetual threat and angst and bordering paranoia. And he was like, "Now, do you know what it feels like to be king?" And he's like, "Yeah, I fucking do."
Sorry, sir. I don't want to do that again. Can I go back to my tits and wine, please? But this is something I see a lot in life. Is everyone always wants responsibility and status, and they think they should be in charge.
Everyone thinks they've got the best idea.
As somebody who does take on a lot of responsibility and is in charge, a fair amount, it's fair to say, it can be proper shit if you're not prepared for it. And I think if you have to try and get leadership, or you're like, oh, I should be the one, then you're intrinsically not the one. Because
you should just fall into place.
Yeah, because other people either put you
gravitate,
or like you say, it just happens like a gravity exactly. You find yourself as like a collector of other people, kind of accidentally, that kind of thing.
When you speak, people will listen, sort of thing.
It can be that, but for me, it's more about I'm secure in that position that I take up in life, like that. Side note, I haven't achieved much yet, but we're trying. In that, I'm very secure that I have the best interests of the people around me at heart. And I look at other people who, they're not that they're thinking bad things, but it's, okay, a very common thought I have is, fucking hell, man, if I was trying to just do everything my way, or the highway, like all you guys were, nothing would ever happen. Because it would always be people like bouncing off each other and in conflict. So all the sudden,
not directing the whole charge in one direction, sort of thing.
It's not even like directing the charge necessarily. It's about not holding it back with your own kind of arbitrary ways of doing stuff. So most of the time, when I'm out with people and I really like doing stuff and are competent, I'm annoyed because it's like I've accepted that I don't get to say what I want to say. Ironically, as I'm talking a lot now, I'm aware of that. I don't get to do stuff my way. I don't get to say, actually, I don't want to do that because it's not my vibe or I have to go somewhere. But other people do. But obviously, if both parties who are trying to pull in one direction are going, well, I want to do my own thing instead, then nothing happens. So someone invariably has to bow down. And it took a long time, actually, to go from seeing that as like a kind of cuckish way of being to like a nobility, if you see what I mean. And I will just get the fan out to get the smoke out of my own arse.
So what? So you, rather than winding up in a situation where everyone's throwing out what they want and achieving nothing because you've got people just disagreeing with each other, and that potentially kills the enterprise.
Not working to the same goal, sort of thing.
Right, you'd rather step back and allow everyone else to do that and then arrive somewhere, or
I think it's more in a petty way. So the thing that I care most about is the general vision and direction.
Okay.
And it's not like we're doing my vision because I've thought of it. It's like, well, no one else has suggested one that's better, and this makes sense. So you work with me more, Jace. I never go, this is the way. I go, does that sound reasonable?
You've always done this.
Yeah.
Like when we were like early 20s, or even when we were kids, we'd all go out as a bunch of like 8, 9, 10 of us,
fucking in between
Keens, or like go to the escape or whatever, and then we'd spend half an hour in the car park just milling around, and be like, oh, what do we do?
With no decision and
everyone's
no
like,
direction.
well, I want to go over here, I'd like to go to pizza,
Yeah.
I want to go to thing. Dan's like, can we just pick somewhere?
Yeah.
Like,
just go.
like make a decision,
And jump
or
as well.
split up, and we can all go do different things and meet up
Yeah.
later.
See, I can't
But
do
no,
that
but
for shit.
you do need someone to kind of step in
To rally,
and say,
yeah.
like let's make a decision. Or if when you recognise that there's these conflicting interests, it's the same. Well, look, we can separate and go different directions and then come back together again. It's not the case that we all have to go everywhere all together all the time.
Yeah.
When we were younger and in your recent enterprises,
Yeah.
yes.
No, I think that's right, and it's about if people feel very strongly that they want to do something or be some way, who am I to go, that's an incorrect way of doing it, unless it's like, hey, who fancies dog shit sandwiches for dinner? That's just obviously absurd. I'll go, right. So when we're picking food, petty situations everyone can relate to, right? It's like, well, if one person quite fancies like a Chinese, but another person really, really doesn't want one, the one who really, really doesn't want one should probably win out of that. So we eliminate that, and then what's remaining and what's most agreeable to everyone.
Yeah.
Why though? Why should the person who really doesn't want a Chinese have to win out over the person who kinds of wants a Chinese?
Because it's about...
It's a stronger feeling. What you're saying.
Like how important it is. Because I think if you're not like, I'm gagging for a Chinese and I'll kill anyone for it.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
Calm down. Yeah, it's just like, I would prefer that as a thing.
Willing to kill for Chinese more than Genghis Khan.
Someone's like, I actually really, really don't like Chinese, and it would be unpleasant for me to be forced to sit in
I'm allergic.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't eat it. You're still going.
And it is about the greater good, the greater good. About like if 80% of people want to go do something, and you get the odd couple of awkward fuckers. Sorry,
for the many,
unlucky.
Few.
Yeah,
Right, Corbin.
For the many, not the few. But maybe slightly less in support of Hamas and the IRA.
Just a little bit. Yeah, fair enough. No, I mean, it's tricky. I mean, because even if you do have what you were saying about stepping back and not putting your vision or view forward, I guess the downside of that is that you kind of eliminate the opportunity for having everyone's preferences out on the table and then making what's the word I'm looking for? Sacrifices, or the middle ground. What's another word for that middle ground thing?
Compromise.
That's the one. Thank you. Making compromises.
God, imagine that I can think of compromise and Matt couldn't.
I never compromise.
Hail Caesar.
It's not in my vocabulary.
But I think the way I'd analogize it best is kind of, if you imagine a bowling alley, it's just like putting the bumpers over the gutters. Basically, make sure it's not complete cock up and chaos. But as long as it's vaguely over
going
there,
going that way,
bounce around, but
basically
it's going that
Yeah.
way-ish.
Yeah.
So I don't care what the specific destination is, as long as it works.
Fair enough.
I know I've said this to you a lot before about people's visions of how things should be. I would love someone to have a better idea. I'd love it, but until they do. And
so can you give an example of this? And obviously we've been talking about when we were kids and going out for dinner and whatnot. But
sure.
More recently,
yes,
I
guess in a more like real worldy business sense. Now, side note, this is not me moaning about anyone because no one's gone, well, I don't like your way of doing things and fuck you. It's more like no one else has offered a comprehensive long term or kind of like strategic view of what we're doing, of where it's going. You know, people have great ideas and plans for the short term, which is great because I'm shit at that.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a vision person, not a planner. But yeah, so let's say.
What's the first? Tell us what it is that you do.
Oh yeah, sorry. So we're in what do I call it? Kind of digital media marketing. So we do 3D virtual tours, we do videos, we do social media management, all that kind of thing. But obviously they springboard into other things because no one thing is infinitely sustainable. So it's more about going like, trust me, if you put all your effort into doing what you're doing in the short term now, the bit that I'm bad at, stick with this and it will pay off in the long term, and here is why. Proper shrink, man. He's like...
Matt, just making some notes here.
Narcissist.
You would shut the fuck up.
Oh, so do I. Don't worry.
I'm just
So do I.
Okay, well, fair
Someone needs
enough.
to talk.
You were right, by the way. There has been... Sorry to jump to a different conversation. There has been a discovery. There was a statue found in an archaeological dig.
In Alexandria.
This is in regards to Alexandria, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, this is in Alexandria, isn't it?
Yeah, a Greek archaeologist has been searching in the heart of Alexandria, Egypt, for almost 14 years for traces of Alexander the Great, king of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedonia. Just as she's about to give up, her prayer was finally answered, and she says that she found like a marble statue that has bearing every hallmark of Alexander the Great. And this doesn't say much more than that.
Oh, right.
But it's not
but
tomb,
it just says this gives us clues to hopefully one day finding the tomb. I think so.
Yeah. I'd say that's tenuous though.
Yeah.
That'd be like going, oh my god, we found a picture of Stalin in Stalingrad. Jesus.
He must have been here.
It's got to be
At
here
some
somewhere,
point.
boys.
I'd consider that to be wild speculation.
Yeah.
My god, there's a picture of a Spartan behind Jason. Leonidas must be buried under the floor. It's like Richard III in the Tesco.
I mean, the difficulty though of piecing together a picture of something that happened 2,500 years ago.
Yeah.
And then it's
Through little
basically impossible. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's like being given finding a jigsaw puzzle, and you've got like
only 15 pieces.
well, no, you've got like 3 parts of like 2 of the pieces, and they're in bad condition.
Yeah.
And you've got to figure out what the jigsaw puzzle is.
Is that from that puzzle or not?
Yeah.
Is it even from the puzzle that I think I'm trying to put together,
Yeah.
or is it from a different?
Oh no, it's just a bit of shit from somewhere else. It's not even part of that.
But yeah, because we tend to think of these things as, well, everything that's ages ago is basically the same. But look how much different everything was 5 years ago.
1,000 years ago to 2,000 years
Yeah.
ago to 3,000. Yeah.
So you're like, oh, it's that thing's from the classical era. It could be, but that could be from the end of Rome. It could be from the beginning of Greece, and that's like what 600 years. Fuck knows, man. You ain't got a chance. But maybe there just isn't one. Maybe he just doesn't have a tomb, or it's so long ago it's just like it was made of wood and rotted away.
How did he die?
Oh, sorry, that was a shrug of the shoulders.
Dan shrugs. Fair enough.
Shrugs in sarcastic, but essentially we don't know. Obviously, he died suddenly, so he was poisoned.
So he had the COVID
Almost
vaccine.
certainly, yeah. Oh! No, he just had autism. Yeah, he basically just like got in and dropped dead. So someone
belly.
almost certainly poisoned him. And then everything went tits up.
Again.
Just imagine that whole swathe of the world, which back then was basically the whole world that wasn't China, that people knew about. One man dies and everything goes to hell. There's no succession, there's no agreement afterwards. It's just, well, let's fight and see who wins. Like, oh yeah, well done guys.
So this is history.com. When Alexander the Great died in Babylon in 323 BC, his body didn't begin to show signs of decomposition for a full 6 days, according to historical accounts.
That seems
sounds
like
bullshit,
doesn't it? Propaganda bullshit.
Especially with no preservatives or anything. Now, imagine that started a lot quicker than that.
I mean,
Bollocks.
I don't know. Maybe it depends how maybe if he fell in oil, he was just kind of like conserved.
Frozen.
Or rum like Nelson. But remember, I was also in Iraq, so it's quite hot.
Yeah.
To the ancient Greeks, this confirmed what they thought about the young Macedonian king and what Alexander believed about himself, that he was not an ordinary man but a god. Well, I mean, if you were a god, though, 6 days.
Yeah, that's not a lot.
You still wouldn't.
Yeah, I'd be upset with that.
Yeah,
if I was a god and I died, and it took 6 days, I'd be like, oh, come on. I'm stronger than that.
You can do more than 6 days, mate. Oh, what are you? Shit god, part-time.
Shit god, demigod.
Demigod, mate, yeah.
Part-time. Only on Saturdays.
We're only a god on Wednesdays, leave me alone.
But still the most influential person in history, in my opinion. So much changed because of him.
Like what?
Like how much influence the West has still. Because without him, Persia is the unbridled power of the world. And they were all right, by the way. They're kind of maligned, basically, because they're the foreign baddies. But they were really quite liberal. They had religious freedom. They had really quite well structured provinces called satrapies, which are copied by the Romans and then the British Empire. It's the same structure. So they basically just invented how the world was structured for the next couple of thousand years and beyond.
Modern civilization.
Yeah. Proper culture and grandeur and civilization and learning and organisation and religious freedom. All these kind of things. So he basically just nicked it and put a spin on it.
Nice. You got to get it from somewhere.
Yeah. And
all great artists borrow. That's the saying, isn't it?
All artists borrow, all great artists steal. It's the saying, yeah. But it's just one of those significant divergence points.
That sounds like something someone who isn't an artist would say.
I think it was Picasso.
Well, I stand by what I said.
Yeah, just funny shapes.
It was fucking weird horse heads. And
just funny shapes. There's a terrible narcissistic quote from Picasso. He's like, when I was growing up, my mum said, whatever I did, I'd be the best at. She said, if I became a clergyman, I'd become the Pope. But instead, I became an artist and I became Picasso. Like, what an insufferable prick.
It's like Oscar Wilde with his wife.
God, nothing but my genius, yeah.
I became Picasso.
Yeah.
Utter bellend.
Picasso, utter bellend.
Let's take down some more historical figures. Alexander, narcissist. Picasso, bellend.
Inarius from not Divinity.
Diablo
4. Prick.
Yeah, so they're all like praying to this supreme godlike being who's like proper got angel wings, ethereal, ethereal gold,
just
and
a
they're
bit stroppy, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, more than that, he's just a bit of a knob, really. So everyone's like, "Oh, I pray to Inarius." We're like, "We met him. He was a bellend."
Stop that.
Yeah, you really shouldn't.
Just like, I'm going to go now. All right, see you later. Autistic god. I am all now.
I couldn't get my head around that game.
We stopped playing it fairly quickly.
I didn't enjoy it.
Diminishing returns.
Well, I found myself just button smashing.
It basically is
like,
that.
You set different things and you like smash.
It wasn't a strategy.
These whirlwinds are fun.
Yeah.
Now I'm bored of the whirlwinds. Here's some lightning.
Oh, you were playing Druid?
Yeah, I was Druid, man.
Nice.
Druid, man.
Proper virgin.
We actually had you down as a Druid for our class system that me and Dan were talking about.
You haven't worked out your class yet?
No, mine's ambiguous.
Of course it is. The special boy
one.
Can't be categorised.
Classes for...
Don't put me in a box.
It would be D&D, but
Classes.
like
Basically
general
RPG
type.
Okay, right.
RPG classes, yeah. So we had...
I just think you're some kind of rogue or ranger. You're medium armour. Definitely. Because you're strong, but you're not like a huge...
Yeah, no.
Gives me goblin vibes.
Goblin.
No, just house elf.
They're not included. You can't do that.
Historical house elf. So Jason's nickname, given by a teacher in year 7, by the way, was Dobby. and he really did not look unlike him.
Yeah.
Ugly kid. I had a glow up.
You did
a little bit of a glow up.
You've had
you can't see me now, but...
Well, I'm sure we'll
He's
post
a
a
grower,
picture
not a
of
shower.
this. Yeah, that's what I say to them all anyway. Yeah. So yeah, I'm thinking some kind of maybe ranger, because rogue suggests you're a bit more of like a dodgy boy.
I just never enjoyed or related to anything of that ilk.
Yeah, but you're not a wizard, are you?
I am. I feel like a wizard.
I became
magic.
a wizard.
You live your truth.
Yeah.
What would you say you are then?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But I always liked playing the magic caster, the big spell spectacle sort of.
Yeah, but I always played as the barbarian whacker, but that's not me in real life, is it?
I don't know. You're often the like tank guy, like the paladin sort of.
Yeah, I'd love to be
Often
that.
that.
Unfortunately, I'm not magic in real life. Although my father was Zeus.
No, it's mine.
Yeah, some kind of like dark paladin for me. Matt, straight up to you. For
Yeah.
our listeners, when I picked Matt up earlier, he was speaking with an inquisitive cow, in his own words.
It was an inquisitive cow. I wouldn't let me pet it though. She was skittish.
No, cows don't really.
She was
like that.
trying to eat my hand, but then wouldn't let me pet her.
So he's kind of like an illiterate Dr. Dolittle.
Something like that, yeah.
What do we reckon would be like the most common class? And is it just fighter or barbarian?
Probably fighter over barbarian, because barbarian's a bit like of a mad bastard.
By common, you mean the one that people go for the most, or
As in, that'll be most frequently represented.
Applicable to the real world.
were it to be real. Because this is the root of a lot of our...
well, I mean, no one's magic, so
No, but you can tell when someone...
that.
You're like, if you were in Star Wars, you would have the Force. Or this guy, Harry Potter, he's a squib. You can tell when someone's a squib.
okay, right.
We won't name any names, but we all know exactly what we're thinking about.
There's a couple, yeah.
That's a telling silence.
Yeah.
And if you can't think of anyone, it's you.
Exactly. I'm thinking maybe like
That's it.
some kind of healer class might be quite prevalent. So there's a lot of like
no,
generically
cleric,
quite
that would
nice
be-
people, or
yeah.
like nurses or
Lewis.
whatever.
Like in real life, Lewis would be that.
Not paladin.
Mm,
No, too far.
So I'm not familiar with D&D that much. So what are the characteristics of a paladin? Those are pretty good characteristics.
Yeah. That was for the edit. That's because other Matt always used to tell me off for not leaving enough breaks between cock-ups.
Fuck it, don't worry about it.
So a paladin would typically wear heavy armor but have like magical augmentation, and they're more inclined to, the light and kind of godliness and more like healing and support spells. So I'm trying to think of like a popular character who might be a paladin. And for some reason the only one I can think of is like Darth Vader. It's like an evil paladin.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a big heavy armor
Yeah.
dude. He whacks, but he's still got like
That's
magic
right.
and a cloak
Yeah.
and all that
Okay.
kind of stuff going. Whereas
Right.
this is why I think you would
Kind of
be.
like foreboding kind of
Yeah.
heavy presence. Kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he's
Yeah.
an oathbreaker paladin.
The frontline tank. Yeah. The protector.
Yeah, but I'd say druid would be good for you because you're definitely a spiritual as opposed to religious person, because that's associated more with
Definitely, yeah.
here's the book, here's dogma, it's God, no one else is there.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, more nature based they are. They're like.
Yeah.
I would say
Talks to animals.
Yeah.
a druid
Yeah.
would have a
So
gap year,
plays in the mud.
100%.
Yeah. The druid has been
Gap
traveling.
year, took some mushrooms.
Yeah.
Sat in a mountain for a while. Swam in a lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Literally dance with wolves.
Yeah. You're gonna do that once though, because they eat you.
No, not if you're a vibe.
Vibe with the wolves.
Yeah.
Yeah, vibing with wolves, a Gen Z remake.
Yeah.
And he's like, actually, I
shit.
identify as an oxen.
Getting ate, mate.
So I'm trying to think, can we get your class by working out what you're not?
Process of elimination.
Exactly, process of elimination.
It's quite a lot.
Okay. Well, like the main ones, there's
I'm
loads
not
of
paladin.
ones like
I'm not.
artificer.
I'm not paladin.
Shit.
Not a cleric.
Why
Not
aren't you a paladin?
because I'm not the one to like guard everyone.
He's a
Like-
selfish fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're on your own.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just not that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So you're not a paladin.
I'm not that.
You're also not gaudy.
Yeah. Not the cleric. That's like the sort of healer, sort of bit whimsical sort of character.
Whimsical.
So
I'd say a bard is whimsical.
yeah, definitely not a bard either.
No. You can do the odd song well. You put on fucking oh my god, what's it called? We're leaving together. The final countdown.
Yeah.
That's the one. You can bang that out quite nicely, I imagine. Or like Romeo and Juliet is your favourite soppy song. So he does have a heart.
Dire Straits or Taylor Swift?
No, not Taylor. Dire.
Oh, that's Love Story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is that? Oh,
Yeah, come on, she's hot shit now, man.
No.
You gotta listen to all the retrospective back catalogue.
So
Dan-
I got that bad blood tattoo from that Bastille when I was 21. It was at a festival once.
Bad blood.
Yeah, it was one of their album, like a...
Oh, was that what okay, I remember it's the triangle, isn't it?
Yeah, with a big triangle and
Yeah.
Bad Blood. It was their album cover and title. I was at a festival once and someone came up to me and just demanded that I sing Taylor Swift to them. Because apparently she has a song called Bad Blood. And I was just like, I don't know
No,
the
it's
song.
not that one.
It's not that one. I don't know the lyrics.
I had Bad Blood before it was
can't
cool,
sing the
man.
song. They're like, sing Taylor Swift. I was like, no, I can't.
You should have just gone, Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Smart ass motherfucker.
Taylor Swift. her
Okay,
concerts are
so you're not a paladin,
yeah.
you're not a cleric, you're not a bard, because you lack whimsy.
He in fact hates when I say whimsical. Okay, so we'll put you in the damage dealer class then. Some kind of damage dealer.
So
You smirk there, you like that?
It's special.
I'm just thinking that because I'd usually be more of a sort of lone wolf character, like go off. So that would indicate some sort of rogue or ranger type.
But you're also very social. You're not a lone wolf though, are you?
I mean, in some certain circumstances, like more.
I'd say combat based, you'd be wasted not attacking from the back.
He's good at that.
Yeah, I realised that was a cock up the second it came out of my mouth, as the actress said to the bishop.
Just get a soundboard.
Yeah. And then I think fighter is just a bit too like straight stand up. Like that's like the ISTJ.
So why not?
Yeah.
So why not
Okay.
druid?
I don't.
Because
I'm not spiritual. I don't feel like spiritual. I don't vibe with it.
He's not a vibey boy.
No, yeah, you've got to be a vibey boy to be a druid. Yeah,
Okay.
like one with nature,
A vibey
mystical,
boy, yeah.
spiritual.
You're definitely a vibey
Like,
boy, Matt. 100%.
animal, like friend,
Right.
that sort of thing. So
Animal
definitely not.
friends.
Definitely not that.
Like, for the listeners,
Okay.
I have seen Matt attempt to commune with animals on several occasions.
And butterflies.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm
Is it-
If you don't
Still a
try,
butterfly.
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly, but most of us aren't going, oh, I wonder if I speak butterfly. That's why you're a druid.
you don't speak butterfly. You just speak at the butterfly, and then hope something magical happens.
What? That responds?
Fuck off.
Fuck off.
Yeah, man.
Most of them are probably trying to say that.
You guys
It's with you. Putting your
me
nose
alone.
right
No.
into.
What they're probably doing is,
Oh my god, he's gone. Oh no, he's coming back. Fuck off.
hey, yeah, every act of benevolence leaves like 8 generations of trauma for lines of butterflies.
Look an animal. Just ruin their children for 8 generations. No, man, you got to stop and sniff the roses. You know, it's the whole bunch of stuff out there. You got to.
I do what I do so other people have time to sniff the roses.
I don't sniff roses.
So set the
Fuck
mark.
everyone else, and I don't sniff the roses.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not a druid.
Right. Oh, we're still here.
Are you yeah? Are you long range or are you a stabby stab?
I don't know. What are we talking about here?
Your class, apparently.
Yeah, no, but what?
In your mind,
in what-
how do you envisage yourself fighting? What's your vision of yourself?
Well, no, is this
I think
specifically
range.
to do with combat? With,
I don't know.
Well,
or is this like general?
I think that's just one way I'm
No,
trying
it's just
to
one-
like.
Yeah,
narrow it
Because
down.
if we're talking about combat, and mine is talk to the animals.
You're useless. Fuck off. You're no good in this
Well, mate,
engagement.
to be fair, when my dad took me to play football, you know, when you're 5 years old, your dad takes you to park to play football.
No, I don't know that.
Oh,
Thanks.
if Jason's dad's listening out there, go fuck yourself.
But no, anyway, my dad took me to play football when I was 5, and I ran off and just picked daisies
Okay.
for the rest of the time. I just got bored and ran off and picked daisies.
Yeah, so you're a fucking druid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not useful in combat,
Yeah, yeah.
basically.
Yeah, but I think you are. Because you are quite big.
Because
you're
you'll distract
protective.
him. They'll be going, that guy's talking to the fucking animals.
Do you reckon he's magic? Fucking run away!
He's talking to that tree.
So this is probably what people, thought like oracles and shaman were in the past.
Yeah.
Just
Avoid
like,
them.
well, he's fucking having a bash it, isn't he?
Don't talk to Matt. He's fucking mental.
He's mental. He thinks he's magic, or might be magic.
Could
I'm not
be.
sure.
Yeah,
but
I don't
if
want to try it.
If he sniffs enough fumes, he might tell your future. So there you go, Matt is the
yes.
oracle at Delphi.
Definitely, yeah.
But I would say someone's combat style does actually say a lot about their personality as well.
Yeah.
So if you want to be like a long range sniper,
Yeah.
that
Probably-
even says
yeah. Most of the time.
that says you're smart and you're not that asked about honour in that situation. Doesn't mean you're not honourable in real life, but it means you're pragmatic, right? So let's say someone in real life now is a sniper. You're not like, what a dick, he didn't kick him in the bollocks first.
Yeah, you didn't go up and stab him. Yeah, go one-on-one combat.
It's just, oh well, you should have a counter sniper.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
it's more of a, I think it's like specialist.
Yeah, so you're a
isn't it?
ranger
So-
then. Alone
Yeah,
in the
because-
wild, being
because-
survivalist,
Yeah,
special
the rogue
forces
would be a
type.
bit more of a like darker sort of.
Rogue's kind of more
guy.
swashbuckling and like may potentially
Yeah. So
be a bit more
probably-
gobby and nick stuff.
Yeah, so probably.
Okay, so what you're resisting Ranger.
Yeah,
So why are you resisting
Because
Ranger?
in any circumstance of playing a game, that would be the last of my options to
Why?
choose a ranger. I've never thought.
Is it
I
because
just
on the
never
game
wanted
it's a
to-
busman's holiday?
Is it because you're being really
Yeah.
modest and you're like, I am a Ranger, but I'm not going to act like I'm a Ranger?
No, it's definitely not a
Okay.
modest thing.
He just
yeah,
likes to
'cause
swan around in a cloak.
I just like doing spells.
Okay, what about sorcerer then?
Yeah.
It's a shout, right?
The Necromancer.
Maybe. The necromancer. Yeah.
No,
Cool.
you'd be
Not
like,
to be
"Ew."
confused with the Necrophile.
Oh no. Though there is. It was. You don't have to be crazy to work it, but it helps. But I think that actually does suit you, the sorcerer, because
Ranger sorcerer.
you're known for being either quite silly or stoic and like the guy who works out. But as I would say, someone who knows you at least in the top 3 people, you're a hell of a lot more than that. Like the main thing I associate with you is your ability to think. Much more than your ability to like pulverize stuff or like snipe stuff.
Because even with characters like Gandalf, right? He's magical, right? He casts spells.
Yeah.
He's wise, he's knowledgeable, but he can also engage in combat. Has a sword, right? So he's
Yeah,
he's
competent.
he's
but not. It's not a special.
right.
Yeah.
He can engage in sword
Yeah, sword play.
fighting. Yeah, sword play.
Yeah.
Right,
And
so-
I think that, you know, the
What's the safe
source...
word?
The source Flugengugenhagen.
Shadowfax.
Oh, show us the meaning of haste.
Oh no.
So that's right then, isn't it? Because, you know, sorcerer has a lot of strings to the bow and they're kind of more intrinsically like, I'm powerful, because you're not like a book learning nerd like a wizard would be.
Maybe partly though, because I'm, as we know, a 5 in the Enneagram.
So
that
what you
would-
are is fucking awkward. at
Yes,
the
I
moment.
know.
I know.
No.
But
So
but
that would
be
be-
a
that
good
would
sorcerer.
coincide
Five
with
the what?
The Enneagram.
Oh yeah, this
model.
is
So
this is a whole
a whole
flare.
other level of the
Yeah,
personality type.
it's somewhat like
I'm not okay. I wanted to talk about this. So
Yes, please do.
Explain what it is, and then
well, I would say of the 2 systems we know, that's the least reliable. It's more like additional flavour because it is kind of
Yeah,
linked.
You can't just use that as a.
Well, what annoys me about it though is that
what is it?
okay, so it's basically like a numerical based system that is based on your traits and motivations and things that scare you or give you a feeling of distaste,
Okay.
right? But there is a valid basis to it because I would say if something's observable, replicable, and predictable, it's real, and we can do that quite accurately. But the whole community on it online, there's a lot of like astrology and crystal shit
Okay.
to do with it, which obviously drives me up the wall.
So what's it called again? The
Enneagram.
Enneagram.
Yeah.
And what's the source of it? Is it derived from like psychological research? Is it just sort of observational?
I think
Or-
it's kind of a mixture. What it would be would obviously all these things are, as far as I know, based in very old things like astrological adjacent stuff. But what it would be for me is a kind of very Jungian intuitive way of describing stuff before they had a system for scientifically describing stuff, right? So they might incorrectly associate it with like a star sign, and you know, as a fundamentally rational person, star signs they annoy the piss out of me.
Yeah.
So that's every time I go on a date with a girl, genuinely, it might just be the people I end up with. They're always like, "What's your star sign?" I'm like,
It doesn't matter.
"Oh,
Your star
really
sign can
doesn't
really
matter.
tell me nothing about you. Really.
it is
I
arbitrary as
know loads
anything."
of people that disagree with that.
They're wrong.
I'm sorry, but I agree.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm not passing judgment one way or the other. But it is interesting that because for a lot of people, as like you just expressed, it's like obviously nonsense or not relevant. Like, how can you derive knowledge about me because of
When
things
I
that
was
are
born.
happening in the solar system or further afield? And it's very obvious to a lot of people that that's, as you just said, wrong. And yet, loads and loads of people, men and women, are convinced by it and see value in it. And I don't think these people are necessarily just stupid.
No, of course. That would be reductive.
The problem is the way they're mostly always written is in a very positive way, and they can be very applied to anyone. So anyone reading, say, Sagittarius, for example, can relate to what is being written because they always seem to write them in a way that they can relate to it in some way or another. So it's like, oh, you will, I don't know, be driven to do something in a certain way, and most people would be like, "Oh yeah, I suppose I am actually."
You prefer being happy to being pissed off?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, it must be.
I actually
It
don't.
is right. You do thrive when you're pissed off sometimes.
Yeah, I
But,
find all the time.
Yeah, so that's the interesting reason that I
Fair
really
enough,
disagree
fair
with it
enough.
because it's all, I've always found that it's written.
Well, I think it comes, like, belief in these things are often attached to the assumption, which is also kind of scientific, that we exist in a kind of like unified, interconnected to like totality, right? Because like the scientific worldview, right, is trying to piece together like a unified picture of all the things that are objectively happening in the universe, right? And in the kind of astrological or astrological, or we were talking about Hermeticism the other week, all these kind of esoteric Eastern belief systems, they also have this idea of the unified totality, but kind of like as the mind of God rather than as like an objective happening of things. So I think like the idea that what the stars or planets are doing has an impact on who I am or who we are is like, I think they tie this implicitly to that belief that it is like we're here, the planets are up there. While for like the kind of scientific materialist people, that seems like you could draw a distinction between me and Mars because of the distance, but I think they don't draw that distinction because they see it as a part of the world that we live in, and it is moving and having an impact on space, gravitational fields, energy that then has an impact on here. Now I'm not advocating that. I think that's where it comes from.
To be fair, I think what's likely is that because these things are so ancient, is they were, I don't know about discovered or invented, whichever the correct word would be, by someone who was really, really clever and really, really intuitive. And then what's happened is people have piggybacked on it and got it wrong, or taken stuff literally that shouldn't be literal.
Yeah.
So like the person who came up with all that, it's probably like, no, I didn't literally mean you're born in March, so you're like this. It means you represent an archetype, you buckwit.
Yeah.
But you know, the way I would often think, controversial here, let's say with like a religion, I bet if Jesus was looking at the Crusades, he'd go, "What are you fucking doing?"
No, that's not what I wanted to know. Stop it.
I said, "Thou shalt not kill, not thou shalt only kill the Browns." You know, it's very different.
Yeah.
So I can see.
How did you get that wrong?
I can see.
No one wrote it down.
It's like
It's like Chinese whispers.
Yeah, the religion was white people going and killing people in Israel. Like, dude, I'm from there. That's not what I meant in the slightest. But and also, what's a Frenchman?
You'll find out.
I can't believe they had the gall to go and do that. Hey, historical puns.
Okay, so back to the Enneagrams. So what are the categories? What are the classifications?
Okay, so it basically goes from 1 to 9 in the most basic system of it.
As like a clock face.
Okay.
So
yeah, it's very
at the
much
top.
in the interconnected thing, and actually, as it's shown, it's more like a kind of mandala wheel where the kind of like spokes connecting each other. You know, I'm down with this. Everything is connected thing. I've always had that kind of feeling. Obviously, not claiming to have invented it, just claiming to have noticed
So
it.
the idea is, you have components of most of them or all of them at some point, but you're leaning towards 1/2 of them.
They're basically all based upon your innate drive or motivation and your innate fear or weakness.
Okay.
So let's say
the things you're drawn to and the things you're compelled away from.
But in terms of motivation.
Yeah.
So as Jace referenced earlier, he's what's called a 5. So that means they're drawn to either be the most knowledgeable or be the most competent because their fear is being useless. And the thing is, I think you become that way because you have that intrinsic fear and like little belief that you are the way you fear you are. So, and you know, for people who don't know, we have a friend called Lacey. Hi, Lacey, who is the cleverest person I've ever met. I said to him about this. He's very secure in his intellect, ostensibly. And I went, so this description says you're drawn to getting the most knowledge and being the best because you have an insecure that there's stuff you don't know and you're shit at. And he's like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the same for you. You're in a more kind of like
gathering
crunchy way.
knowledge to not be useless in situations.
Yeah.
So I know things, so I can draw on that, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what it's mostly about, right? Gathering knowledge.
Making sure there are no holes there, because that
yeah, so
if you don't have a hole in your knowledge, exactly, there's no possibility that you're useless in any way.
Yeah.
So I would be a type 8 in this system, which basically means being strong and powerful and aggressive because I'm scared that deep down I'm vulnerable and a pussy. So I will do anything I can to not be a pussy because that's what I'm scared of.
It's given the title of control, isn't it? Number 8.
Yeah, which, to be fair, that's the thing that I don't really relate to. This is probably what everyone like this has said in history, but I don't think I'm especially controlling or obsessive control.
Yeah, that is what obsessive control people say.
Yeah, get fucked. Get fucked, that maybe a tea. But I don't know, what would you say?
I think it's what, like, you may not try and do that consciously, but it is what you ultimately want to do. You want to be in control, because then it's not that you want it done your way, but I think because you see that as like a really good direction, then control is good, because then everything is in place, like everyone's doing their bit and I'm making sure of that.
So not necessarily tyrannical.
Not in a tyrannical way, but more like a progressive way.
Okay. To be fair, you do meet some people who would fall under the A archetype, but you're like, I can't say anything contrary to them because they'll bite my bollocks off.
Yeah, because they'll put me back in the line.
And I've known people like that, and they're quite oppressive and horrible to be around, actually. So that's what I would really hate to be. So I have known people where I was like, even for someone like me, I'm like, fucking hell, I'm anxious to be in a room with you, because everything is like, no, it's this, and you're an idiot, and I will hate you if you disagree with me. But that's tyranny, you know.
Yeah.
So I guess the only thing remaining would be to work out what Matt would be.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
So let's go for a brief run through the archetypes. So a type 1 is like a bit of a perfectionist, like kind of a job's worth, or a bit sanctimonious would be the weakness. Yeah. A type 2 is very, very, very helpful, but there's like a little bit of a tit for tat under the surface of that. A type 3 is, I want to be successful, I want to be the nuts, I will show off, but there's obviously a bit of an innate smugness and narcissism to it. A 4 is about being like unique in your identity and yourself, but obviously they're a bit dramatic and selfish. 5 you've already gone over. 6 is about loyalty and security, and not being betrayed, but I guess the downside of that is that they're often quite quick to like follow tyrants and dictators, that kind of thing.
That was
number 6.
6, okay.
7 is like just want to have fun and like do their own thing and like run around wildly, but really struggle to take things seriously. So that, you know, you have the most fun with them, but they also give you the most frustration because they can't focus and you can't take them out. They can't be serious for a second. Yeah. 8 we've gone over, and 9 is like
the peacemaker.
Kind of like peaceful hippie. Yeah. But obviously the downside is really, really wet when it comes to conflict.
Yeah.
So did any of those jump out at you for yourself there?
Could you repeat 4 and 2 for me, please?
So 2 is like the caregiver, the helper. So for people who don't know, that would be like Lewis is a classic 2. Like, I will feed you, I will do everything for you, I will give you my last £1, but when I need it back, I don't think he'd mind saying that, because
he appreciates the return.
And 4 is like,
with
interest. Sorry, Liz. 4 is like a classic dramatic kind of artist, and normally
very individualist.
Yeah. They're like, their main thing is I must be unique and myself, and anything that contributes that
as that
kind of avant-garde, kind of like resisting against norms.
Just think about a hippie with pink hair and
okay. So you get a lot of singers, like, so who famously for a type 4 would be like a Kurt Cobain, you know, like I'm my own insular artist and fuck you if you're not the same.
So I'm drawn to a 9 for you, actually.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
A peacemaker.
You said before how you...
Yeah.
It's sometimes... You've noticed about yourself how you don't like your agreeableness on occasion.
Oh yeah, no, I'm a tremendously, annoyingly agreeable person. I have a tremendous predisposition to politeness that screws me over a lot. Well, no, it's weird because I have like conflicting parts of my personality. I absolutely have the capacity to be assertive as and when I need to, but my default is politeness, courtesy.
That's what this is about. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is your most comfortable state of being. Your
Right.
default.
Well, and I think it, like, not to get too psychological, it does go back to when I was a kid, right? Because I grew up with my parents in a lot of conflict for like 10 years, and like I hated it, just like fucking hated it.
Understandable. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like I guess like going on after that, it's like whenever like because just like conflict stresses me out, like it stresses everybody out. But like I don't know, I'm just like, well, this doesn't need to be happening, so how can we resolve it?
Yeah,
right? I couldn't do that with my parents because it was bigger than me. But like as
you couldn't intervene.
As an adult, I'm like, well, this like arguments suck, right? It's not good. Like they're necessary sometimes. You do have to sometimes things are important and you have to disagree about them and you have to get to the bottom of it. So they're not always avoidable. But I guess my instinct is there's no point unnecessarily arguing. Like if this can be resolved, then let's resolve it. And if it can't, then we can figure out that it can't, and then we know what to do. Well, we can go from there. So, yeah, I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, just from the way you were saying that, it almost cements that in for me.
That's
you're a 9.
Extremely archetypical, I would suggest.
The caregiver thing as well, because I love cooking for people. Like I like people I like, people I like my friends and family. I love.
I can definitely see that as well, and that would probably be close second as it is.
I'm asking you to repeat things again. But can you go over 6 again?
So 6 is traditionally seen as kind of angsty or kind of like tightly wound.
Very dedicated on like security, like working to make sure that you're like securing yourself, like job, things like that. So I would say, you're nowhere near that.
So I would say, not that anyone understands this, John is a classic 6.
Yeah, wants to put himself in a position where they're definitely solid in a solid situation where they're safe.
Like the organisation he's part of is part of him, and if that goes tits up, then he feels like shit.
Right. Okay. Well, so, and that's what you said earlier, that these people, sorry, John, have a proclivity to tend like go along with like totalitarian or authoritarian things because they're concerned about, well, how do I secure my position? Yeah. Yes, we're in this thing now. There's this revolution or new thing coming along. How do I make sure I'm secure and comfortable in whatever comes next?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not going to push back against it because that puts my security at risk.
100%.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know. What do you think, John?
He would definitely agree with that.
He does. I've asked him.
Yeah.
This one was first annoying everyone with this.
He wouldn't push back on that.
Fair enough. Yeah. And 7? Sorry, I'm asking you to repeat them again.
So I think the best way to do this would be like compare it to a character who we would know of that time.
Yeah.
So like Jack Sparrow. Archetypical 7.
Yeah,
I'd say 7. Like maybe like a Rick Sanchez Han Solo type. Like, hey, I'm so fun, I'm so swashbuckling. Yeah, but don't control me, bro.
Right. Okay.
But they just see like anything as being controlled or like stamped on.
Yeah.
Bart Simpson as well would be a 7.
Me in my 20s a little bit.
I think that's quite a lot of people
in their 20s. Yeah.
Fair enough. But what's the real kicker is the 8, the 2, and the 7 are all possible at the same time because you have basically 3. From different boops of it, we won't go into that now, that basically make you up. So you might be like an 8-2-7.
Okay.
So that's like your main one, like a secondary one, because they're meant to represent in terms of the totality thing. One that comes from your gut, from your head, and your heart.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're like an 8-2-7, 9-2-7 rather, you're like, yeah, peacemaking. I love looking after you, but also I'm a funny guy.
Right.
You know that sounds about right.
It does, but doesn't it? Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
And it comes with like a bit of a sleepy energy. So Jace would have a 9 somewhere in his tri-type because you're quite sleepy and late.
Initially, we actually thought I was a 9 because, I wasn't an 8.
But so it basically comes down to what you're most known for. Yeah. So you're known for wanting to be a special boy. Matt's most known for. Well, you're right. You're most known for being
special boy.
Hello, everybody. I would like a penalty today.
That's classic Harry Kane. Matt, I would say, would best be known for basically being the nice guy who vibes everyone.
Yeah.
And I'm best known for kicking off
Getting
at the
pissed off.
slightest hint of anything going
Yeah.
slightly tits up. So it all works out in that regard.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, cool. I'll do the test later.
Sure. So generally with these numbers as well, you're 1, and then you have like what they call a wing. So you'd be like a 8 wing 9 or a 9 wing 8. So it will go either one way or the other. So it's like the way you're sort of leaning towards.
All right.
To sort of give that another
This
level.
is too fair. There's some big information dump.
It's a lot.
This
Bit of
took me
column A,
many
bit of
months.
Yeah,
column B.
but generally you're 1, and then you lean towards one way or
With
the
a bit
other
of a flavour
on
of
the clock.
Yeah, Jason one.
Okay.
So I give it okay.
It's kind of like north-northeast kind of thing. It's like,
Precisely.
okay.
Yeah, like 12:30 or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So the best example I'm an 8W, or whilst as Lacey would say 7. So that means I've got the main thing like, yeah, I'm loud, but I'm more, because it's a 7, I'm more extrovert, I'm more like a bit more swashbuckling, and I'm more like, yeah, let's be free, woo!
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like an 8-9, you're talking like a Tommy Shelby would be the archetype of an 8-9, who's like, it's quite dour, quite moody and brooding, and it's like, don't cross me, it'll be bad if you cross me, and then we'll like just stare at you until you do what he says.
Or not.
Or not.
Yeah.
In which case you die because he's OP as a character.
Fair enough. So how did you guys come across this? What is like because you seem very clued up about it. So
This was me being bored shitless during lockdown and having an existential crisis. Because basically I didn't have there was no world to interact with, so I didn't have a mirror by which to see myself. It's all like a low-key selfish endeavour by me, really.
You know what? I might not do this test actually. Just
I would strongly suggest you not. As someone who is more like me, in terms of like a very widey givey person.
no, I'm just.
I would not do that test and throw yourself into that. Because we've already got the answers for you.
I don't think that's what he was going to go with.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's
No,
more
no.
of an internal struggle thing, is it?
No. Mine was more of a. I'm not sure I want to give the internet information about my personality.
Oh, he's a 6.
What? Go on.
Well, because they do these things where they. Well, because of the kind of like technological landscape that we live in at the moment, especially with like AI coming in, even without AI, we have the capacity. Well, you remember like back in 2016, that Cambridge Analytica thing that came out, where everyone's suspicious that their phone's listening to them.
And they're
They're like,
fucking
oh,
right.
and Alexa.
I've just been talking about whatever it is, and a few hours later they advertise whatever it is, right? Well, I think the point of like that Cambridge Analytica thing, or like the amount of with how valuable data is that it's possible to construct detailed files in the Arnold Schwarzenegger sense of human beings.
What the fuck his voice is doing there?
I'm
I
bad
have
at
detailed
accents, man.
files.
I'm bad at accents.
Yeah.
Whenever I try to do an accent, it comes out of something
Yeah.
else.
Right.
But no, so
Like a profile.
and so they don't need to listen to you because it knows you, right? Like it doesn't need to listen to what you're saying because it knows at what time you're susceptible or inclined to be convinced to purchase something, or when you're, even with people like you, where like the Fitbits or the smartwatches or whatever it is, right? Like the kind of the physiological and psychological data that gets stored online that. And a lot of people don't care about this. They're just like, well, whatever. It's just fucking data. Have it.
Yeah.
But I guess it's something I don't know. Like
You don't like
I don't like the idea
Yeah.
of someone having a detailed profile of myself, and then
Right.
well, no. So I've been reading this. So there's this guy at the University of Edinburgh called Ben Williamson, and he.
Hi, Ben.
Yeah, hi Ben. He won't talk to me.
Oh, fuck you, Ben.
And he wrote this paper, a couple of papers. The first one's called Psychodata, which he published in 2019. And it's a paper about kind of giving an account of how over the last sort of 5 to 12 years that in education that there has been, that these data infrastructures have been set up for the purposes of recording emotional, psychological and behavioural data of children in school for the purposes of quote-unquote precision education, right? Under the guise of precision education. Right? Oh, like this is good for targeting educational practices because we know when they're stressed, we know when they're whatever it is.
Yeah, we know how to best make them perform or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but that's the kind of like the on-the-box pitch.
Yeah.
The USP.
Right. Okay. So you think they're doing something?
No, I know they are, because later on in the paper he says, well, this can also be used for precision governance, right? So it's like like through the guise of education,
right.
but the purpose. He's talking about the fact that this collated data, if we can do this broadly across schools and universities, where we track the psychological, emotional, and behavioural status of these people, then yes, it's good for education, but it's also good later on from a point of governance, because speaking about what you're drawn to and what you're averse to, right? If someone knows that about you, right, you can be controlled, right? Like subtly, because you won't need, because they can do it so subtly that you don't even know that it's like having, because they can just put like a little stimuli over here or over there, and you're not clocking to the fact that someone's put the stimuli.
No, you wouldn't know.
You're just responding to it. Yes.
The question I always have in these circumstances: who's they?
Well, the they would be. Well, in this case with this paper, the money that has gone, the impetus for the program comes from organisations like the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, UNESCO, funded by people like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Chan and Zuckerberg Foundation, people like George Soros. Now, my interest in this is because, well, these organisations, all of them, lean ideologically leftward. And so, like with the in education at the moment in the West, there is a heavy influence from sort of left-wing, neo-Marxian, postmodern ideas, and they're very explicit about this. There's a book called The Critical Turn in Education, From Marxist Critique to Post-Structuralist Feminism to Critical Theories of Race, that literally lays out how over the last 60 years, the radicals of the 60s, when they couldn't get their communist revolution from actual sort of on the streets trying to push for an active revolution.
They tried to do like an inception of it.
No, they went into academia. They're like, well, we'll just orient ourselves towards the field of education. We'll radicalise the field of education. We'll influence the educators of the future. And then over several generations, we'll be able to influence the political consciousness of up-and-coming generations. So that is who I would say that they is.
Okay.
Other people might disagree, but
what I would say about, let's say, organisations, etc., that would harvest your data for any kind of malignant reason would probably not be a left-leaning organisation.
Why not?
Because I think that contravenes the intrinsic desire of the left, which is kind of liberalness and freedom.
No, that's the traditional left. I'm talking about the radical illiberal left. Who they're strategists, they're pragmatists. They are. It's like in like China, right? Like post Mao, right? I think Deng Xiaoping.
But they're not actually left, are they? They might say they are, but they're not left.
Well, it doesn't. The commitment to ideology doesn't matter. It's what achieves the end that they're after, which is why they have this weird fusion of communism and capitalism. Because it's like, it doesn't matter what we use as long as it works, right? As long as it gets us what we want, which is why they have these little like cityscapes that look like free markets, despite the fact that all of the organizations are run by the Chinese Communist Party. So you're right. The traditional left is liberal, and they would not necessarily, and they would be unhappy about that kind of interference. But I'm talking about the extremes of both the right and the left, because they're ultimately fundamentally the same thing.
Yeah.
And they are perfectly willing to do things like that because they have no problem with focus control. Because, well, they believe they've understood something fundamental about the social political landscape, and that everyone else is too thick to grasp that, or they're shrewd and trying to preserve the status quo so they can preserve their privilege. And you have to be manipulated to bring about the next series of traditions, be that from the far left or the far right, both of which are like just as terrifying.
Well, the current unholy hybrid that we've got.
Yes,
going so
well.
well.
That's the concern, is the fusion of sort of, well, communism and fascism. Communism is
neoliberalism. Is that the correct word for it?
So, yeah, it's confusing because like liberalism has got like a bunch of different meanings. It's like there's what kind of like the classical liberal tradition of like laissez-faire,
Oscar Wilde type shit.
well, yeah, kind of like for free markets, like free speech, like religious freedoms, freedom of conscience. And then there's that taken to the nth degree, which is what I think neoliberal means.
So that's like Old West, every man for himself.
Well, not only that, but it should be imposed upon everybody else, right? So like we should take this approach and we should force China to do it. We should force people in the Middle East to engage like this. We should force Africans to work like this, rather than demonstrating it as a society and then letting other people like pursue that themselves.
The city on the hill.
It's like, yeah, well, like, you know, like what people accuse the US of doing, and probably the UK as well, like arranging coups in other countries. And
we try, we just probably suck.
Yeah, well, yeah. But no, so like, so I would, that would be my answer as to who they are.
Okay, nice. So I always like to make sure, I know we've had this discussion before, that people don't think there's like just like one hooded Palpatine type figure.
No.
That wants to
I think
control.
I'm sure there's somebody
where
who
we
wants
are
to be.
Yeah,
is
but there isn't. Like,
we are in a liminal space where we are. The world is changing around us. There are loads of different interest groups who are aware that that's happening and either encouraging it, and in kind of like a Hunger Games style thing, where it's like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, until the very point where it becomes inconvenient and unnecessary for us to be collaborating with each other, because we're all playing the same game, which is trying to make. Well, we were talking earlier about that 5 or whatever it was, 6, sorry, where you're trying to secure your position in the next, in whatever comes next. Because nature abhors a vacuum, and if what you're trying to do is subvert and undermine the current tradition such that it collapses, and then obviously something has to come in and replace it, right? Or many things come in and replace it,
Chaos
and
is a ladder.
then fuse into one or many as time progresses. And if you're thinking about that, if you're thinking in the long run, if you're thinking strategically, and with an understanding that that's how things work, or a belief that that's how things work, then you're going to act or coordinate your endeavours in the understanding that that's happening. And so what you're not going to do is you're not going to point out, say if you're like one of the, say there's like 12 different interest groups all vying for power or all vying for control over whatever the hell comes next. If you're one of those, what you're not going to do at, say, this stage is point out what everyone else is doing,
because you're doing it as well.
Mutually assured destruction, right? Because if you point out my game and you ruin my game, I'm going to fucking ruin your game. So they all these games kind of go along, and it's really fucking confusing for everybody else, because I think most people have this sense that some weird shit's happening, and like with regards to politics, whose interests are being represented, because it damn sure isn't the common person, so whose? And it's like, it's not obvious. I've heard some people refer to it as like Goliath, right? This kind of, or the blob, or the deep state, or these kind of amorphous interests that's really, really difficult to like point to and say, oh, it's this thing, because there's many of them and it's not obvious. And yeah, we're kind of fucked. Not to be too pessimistic about it, but
your mum said it a long time ago. But we
mum.
We have had it. We have had it, and she was right. Cheers, Bethla. She was right. But what I would say, in terms of to come back to the original jumping off point of that, is that
the data, yeah.
Regardless of what you do, they've already got that.
No,
they know you.
No, I'm aware of that.
Okay.
I just don't want to like
facilitate it.
Well, I'll just do it. Yeah, like more like
rage against the dying.
No, but this is why I've been coming off. Why I came off social media.
Yeah, I think your phone, like if they wanted to, like if I don't think there's anything.
100%.
Yeah.
If they wanted to spy
there.
me, they wanted to spy me, they could probably
For a
have
conversation,
or whatever, right? And I do podcasts and whatnot, so I put all of my like the stuff that I think online anyway.
Yeah.
No, I know it's maybe it's like kind of Sisyphus, like pointless, but I don't know. I guess it's like the part of me that's idealistic, right? There's like I don't care that it's. You're right. That if they wanted to hack, like they've already got the information.
Yeah, they've got 99%.
I've filled out all of this.
Doing that is only 1% of the rest of.
I'm aware of that, but it's like it's the principle. It's like I know it's fucking pointless, but you're all a bunch of cunts, and fuck you.
Well, you're going to give the satisfaction of that 1%.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, I'm that. I don't want to use the word petty.
You petty fuck. 1% you can't give them.
Passionate.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I wouldn't.
No, I know.
I wouldn't subscribe to that myself.
Fair enough.
I wouldn't care. Like, if it, for me, I don't care if whoever's listening to anything I say, as long as it's not like, as long as I'm not doing anything bad or saying anything like honestly really bad. I don't care if my phone listens, any conversation that I have with you guys or whatever, because I know that I'm not doing anything wrong.
But what if
I don't care if I'm not
right?
It's not about doing something wrong though. It's not the KGB.
Well, no. But what if the rules as to what's wrong are increasingly arbitrary? Right. So the wrong right now. You're like, well, we've just been having a conversation about whatever, and it's fine now.
Yeah,
but in the landscape that we're in, like every 3 weeks,
it might
some
be wrong
new
to have said
right. Some new thing comes along, and it's like verboten.
And then they go looking on the internet, seeing who said this phrase, and then anyone who said that, it be anything silly like, I don't know, I don't like the colour blue, and they arrest everyone for saying that in the last 30 years. Well,
or make an attempt to ruin your reputation, or get you fired from your job, or whatever.
Cancelled, basically. Yeah.
Because that's the worry, right? The worry isn't that, because I guess going back to the sixth thing is like, because if it was like, if the rules were set and stable. Right. And plus being recorded and everything and consistent, I could appreciate the being fairly blasé about it because you know what the rules are and you know how to conduct yourself. But if the rules are in a situation where they're fluid and unarbitrary,
surely you can't just go on thinking that all the time, because you end up saying nothing anytime ever.
Well, no,
you'll just be
it's not. I don't do not talking. I spend a lot of my time saying all of the things that you shouldn't say anyway. Not just for the sake of it, but because I don't. It's like at university, for example. Like I've been
pushing on.
Well, I've spent the last 4 years, like all of the things. Just arguing with people, just sending emails, reaching out to the administration,
being a nuisance.
Yeah, basically trying.
Yeah.
Because I don't like. It was like I was called in. There's like a DEI department within my philosophy school. I sent an email to my peers, basically just talking about how there was a movie that was supposed to be shown back end of last year called Adult Human Female, kind of talking about the kind of trans, non-binary, gender theory conversation from the perspective of feminists that are concerned of the impact that this has on women's rights. Right, so the idea of well, if we're just going to accept self-identification of any man who is now, we have to say, is a woman,
that takes away from,
and they're allowed to just come into my bathroom, like what's going on here?
But that makes you a TERF now.
No, exactly. So it makes you a TERF and a bigot and a hateful person. And this event was shut down by protesters who decided to just place themselves in front of the door and prevent people from gaining access. And because security wouldn't physically move them, because they have a policy of not physically handling students, that they then had to cancel the event. And so, like the heckler's veto or the protest, they just got to say, no, this isn't happening.
Yeah. Right?
And then it was eventually screened again, and mainly because the second time this happened, it was cancelled. It went out it became very public, like in Edinburgh, and a lot of donors, I was told by someone at the university, basically saw this, called up the university and was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why can't you, I'm paying you money, I'm giving you money, I'm donating to the university, why can't you host an event? Well, what the hell's going on? And so the third time we tried to put it on, we had additional internal, external security, undercover police presence on campus, gates, the whole thing. Oh. So the event eventually went ahead.
Yeah.
And I sent an email around back in February, because it was like LGBTQ History Month, despite the fact that it's June, which is Pride Month. I don't know. They get loads of months now. But anyway, I sent an email around just kind of talking about this, and saying, well, because there are these claims about being a member of an oppressed group, and I just simply asked, well, how bloody oppressed are you? You seem to have a pass on acceptable behaviour. I couldn't conduct myself in the way... Like, if I don't like the idea of decolonising the curriculum. There have been several events on campus having this conversation. I've attended one of them. If me and a couple of my mates decided to mask up, right, and then stand in front of the door and refuse to talk like this, and to stop an event going on about decolonising the curriculum or anti-racism, right, I would be probably kicked off the fucking university, right? Because I'd be accused of being a racist, I'd be accused of all sorts.
Double standards.
No, exactly. It's a double standard. And I was just pointing this out.
Yeah.
I just sent an email around. Several people complained, and I got asked to come in for like a DEI meeting as a part of the official complaints procedure. Like with the implication that if I don't apologise and like commit myself to the dignity and respect policy, that there would be other repercussions. I just said no in the end, and then they dropped it.
This is a danger, isn't it? When communication is not allowed, conversation is allowed. It's newspeak.
Yeah.
You know, for anyone who's not aware, that's the kind of language in 1984, whereas like the accepted vernacular of what you can and can't say.
Oh yeah.
Orthodox speech and non-orthodox speech.
Yeah.
But no, so come back, like the reason why I told you that is because like I have so little patience for that kind of bullshit. Like it's passive aggressive, manipulative, bullying, right? It is someone who is using the veneer of I have a claim to belonging to a marginalised group, therefore I get to behave like a cunt.
Right.
And I'm like, no, you don't. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm
they've basically gone and said, no, you can.
Yeah.
Well, they can do that. You can't.
Yeah. The university has
because that's where the
and many universities they have infrastructure and policies set up that allow and celebrate and encourage this kind of behaviour. And I'm just like pointing it out. And people don't like it when you point it out because I'm trying to break their game. They have this weird little game they're playing. I'm like, there's a game you're playing and it's nonsense. It's arbitrary and it's silly. And I'd like you to stop. And they don't like it when you do that. But I feel compelled to do it. Because I don't know, maybe... You know what it is? I think it's because when I was younger, I was a tyrant. Like in my early 20s. I was arrogant, I was narcissistic, I was self-obsessed, I was manipulative, I could be a bully, I was like bordering on like a wannabe sociopath. And it was unacceptable for me to do that. Like that was unacceptable. And I don't prescribe to the whatever.
Prescribe, maybe, I don't know.
I subscribe, I think. I don't like the idea of this, you did this thing once, doesn't matter that you've changed now, you pointing out the thing that you did, well, you did it before, so why should you point it out? You should just leave it alone. You've got to let other people make their mistakes. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. That seems... Because I punish people when they pointed it out to me, right? With the women I dated, or the people or people who didn't know me that well, or like it was like you're being a cunt, you're being a tyrant, you're being you're whatever, and I would punish people for it
because say fuck you.
Well, because I was bigger than everybody else, or like I could stomp my feet, whatever, and put on a show, and then but again, that was unacceptable. It was unacceptable for me to do that. And if it was unacceptable for me to do that then, it's unacceptable for people to do this now. And again, because I'm like slightly mixed race, and I clung onto that a lot when I was younger. That was a bigger part of my identity when I was younger than it is now. And that was something that I used as an excuse. So, I'm the victim, everything always goes wrong for me, and that's why, because of the systems, it's set up, it's not fair, doesn't matter what I do, everything goes horribly wrong. And that was an excuse that I used to justify my behaviour. Like, it was okay for me to shut people down, right? Or like if someone would, like, I'd say, I don't know, make a racist joke about white people, someone points out that it's racist, I have a justification for telling them that they're wrong and that they should fuck off. Which is all that's happening now. It's just been fractured into race, sex, gender, climate, pick a thing. And it's just if you're not a member of this group, you don't have any right to say anything, despite the fact that I might be behaving like a complete arrogant prick.
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
Right, exactly. Only a Sith deals in absolutes, he says, absolutely.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
So I've been talking for a while there, but that's why I can't abide this stuff. because I see it for what it is. I can see behind the veneer of, oh, I'm a victim, or oh, I'm compassionate and trying to help people, and I'm like, I don't think you are.
I see through the lies of the Jedi. But also, he wasn't fucking wrong, was he?
He wasn't. But they dealt with it badly.
Maybe. it got out of hand.
Dealt with it badly.
Sure.
He killed the younglings.
Yeah, but he was forced to.
It's like a force pun.
Yeah, but he was really upset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I see your point, it's something that should be challenged, particularly using that microcosm of yourself to understand it. You're one guy. Now this is like a societal, teenage, narcissistic personality that has much more devastating consequences than one shitty kid, basically. So I think you're absolutely right to do that.
To compound the problem.
And it all comes from fear and insecurity as well, doesn't it? That's the thing. Because, these things you were purporting to be back then, you are not. And I think, by the way, from people who are watching you, we always knew you weren't that. Everyone knew you weren't like a narcissist or like a sociopath. That was you protecting yourself.
A cover. That was.
Oh no, 100%, 100%, absolutely. But past a certain point, it doesn't matter.
No, I know.
Right, because the
actions,
the manifestation. Yeah, exactly. The action's still there. Right.
I'm trying to reassure you. Is it working?
No. I don't need reassuring.
You are being saved. Do not resist.
Rescued. No, that is literally their logic. It's like we're trying to live. That's what they always call these things liberation movements. It's because they're liberating you. You don't know it, and you'll be happier once they've done it.
Because you haven't freed your mind yet, bro.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, that's it. You haven't risen your consciousness to the appropriate perspective of the social, cultural landscape.
Don't worry, you don't understand.
Yeah.
We'll do it for you because you're too thick.
You'll thank me when you're older.
Not only that, but then with an increasing sense of frustration because you keep getting in the way.
Oh yeah.
Because you don't raise your consciousness.
Stop resisting.
Yeah. No, it's like it's like that, but with like faux compassion, right? As in like, I'm trying to help you.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to fucking help you. You'll be liberated on the other side of my efforts because I have understood something about the complex social dynamics and the systems and structures of oppression that you
couldn't possibly fathom.
No, you could, and you just won't. You won't raise your consciousness to it.
Help! I'm being oppressed. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm getting bits of that wrong, but it's bullshit, and I can't fucking watch it.
I think you would. Well, I was going to say I think you'd be surprised, but I think a lot of people would be very surprised at how many people think exactly that. But because of these issues that we've spoken about, you're not allowed to even question it.
No, you're right. No, I've had academics, I've had administrative staff, I've had PhD students, I've had undergraduate students all tell me that it is uncomfortable. The social milieu is uncomfortable. They think certain things about what's going on around them. They don't feel comfortable saying it. There are some things they just don't talk about. I had one young Russian student tell me a story of what it's like to study in Russia, right, to do their A-levels in Russia, like doing so like politics or sociology or something. And she was like, there are just some things you don't broach. You just don't go there. You don't talk about it, right?
So they can't say, hey, maybe this is a dictatorship.
Right, yeah, well, pretty much, yeah. Because she said, because if you submit a piece of paper where you're anything critical or anything whatever it is about the regime or whatever, somewhere up the chain it may be picked up by someone and you or your family may be in trouble, right? And then she said, I'm not joking, she followed that up with, and I came to the UK to study because I thought it would be better. And it's exactly the fucking same.
Oh wow.
She said there are just some things you cannot talk about. Though you don't if you bring there are some tutors in the first and second year and some professors that if you write a paper that is say critical of a particular viewpoint, you will be marked down for. And I know students who have written to be in accordance with what they know the lecturer wants to hear, not what they actually think.
Oh yeah, just to get
by.
Yeah. Rather than genuine.
Not like a Machiavellian way. I think it's just to survive more so than to get ahead.
Well, and both. it's like there's because a lot of students are just like, look, I don't give a shit about this ideological, political stuff. I just want to get my degree, so I can go and do something else or whatever.
Yeah.
But so there's an organisation, a national organisation called Academics for Academic Freedom, and there are branches of these at different universities. So there's the one at Edinburgh started in my second year. I went to the inaugural event. It was like a 3-hour long meeting. There was about 20, 30 people in the room, mostly faculty, some PhD students, and a couple of undergraduate students. There were 4 speakers. They had 10 minutes each to kind of give their opinion on what the academic freedom landscape is. And then it basically opened up to the audience, and it turned pretty much into kind of like a therapy session. Just hand after hand put up to tell a story about how they felt they'd had their academic freedom infringed upon by faculty and students at the university. And there was one young PhD student who was visibly distressed while she was telling her story. She was doing her PhD on sex robots. I never got to ask her about that, but I was
Or how much they cost.
Yeah. Would you get one? Just.
And so but because she's talking about sex robots, she has to use sex language, right? She's talking about, I think, like the psychology or the sociology.
Yeah, intrinsically.
Yeah, and so she has to use sex language. And when she did this with her PhD advisor and the peers around her, she got penalised and kind of like bullied and like name called for saying male or female and not using non-binary or inclusive language. And she while she was telling the story, she said, and I'm not certain that there isn't someone in this room right now who's come to this meeting because they've heard about it, right? Who isn't going to tell my PhD advisor that I've said what I've said in this meeting, and that pissed me off when I heard that because
It's a police state.
Well, no. So, growing up, I never thought of myself as like as an academic or academically capable person, like till I was like 27, right? Like I was just like, not for me. Whatever, I'll go do something else. It's fine. And I eventually, came around. Right, I was a bit wayward in my 20s, and decided to go to university. After listening to a lot of Jordan Peterson and sort of aiming high and setting yourself a goal. What do you want, kind of thing. And I arrived at university with this kind of idea of what a university was, right? That it is a place of inquiry, it is a place of open-mindedness.
You're imagining kind of like the Agora.
Well, not the Agora, but just like a landscape where you can challenge received wisdoms, right? Like you can put forward new ideas.
Yeah, and that's what it was meant to be.
Right. But then I got there and I realised everyone was fucking around. And like these kinds of instances, I was arguing with the Students' Association for a while. They had Edinburgh Academics for Academic Freedom meeting. That was a big one for me. That was like to be paying £9,250 a year to go to a university and then to be sat in a room with like 50 people or however many there were who were there because they're all expressing a certain series of opinions that is unpopular, which is fine. It's okay to have unpopular opinions because some opinions are more popular than others, but to be persecuted, to be bullied, to be harassed, to be name called, right? I'll give you one example. There was a anthropology lecturer called Neil Thin. He gave lectures on happiness and well-being. Really nice guy. Not because he gives lectures on happiness and well-being. He's just a nice guy. And there was an event on campus called Resisting Whiteness, right? And there was a Q&A section at the end, right? Now, the event itself, again, academia, fucking do what you want, right? Like, have your silly little event, right? It's a little problematic name or whatever, because if you had an event called Resisting Blackness,
that would be shut down.
Right. But whatever, right? I am an academic freedom guy, so like, you have your fucking event, right, or whatever. And there was a Q&A section, and they segregated people during the Q&A and said white people can't ask questions first, right? Black people, I think BIPOC or ethnic minorities, only they can ask questions first, and then you whites get your chance afterwards. And now this Neil Thin guy pointed out that this was racial segregation. You've just racially segregated people and discriminated against people because of things they can't help, right? He reams of complaints against this guy. He was accused of racism, transphobia, weirdly, because of a retweeted something J.K. Rowling said.
Literally being called what he was pointing out at.
Right. No, exactly. He was suspended, right? And like the administration, the senior management, nobody came to his defense. Nobody. He was just left on his own. He was suspended. And eventually, once they looked into it, it didn't turn up anything because obviously he hadn't done anything wrong. But the damage was already done. Like his reputation was ruined. He didn't feel like he could go back to the classroom, and he retired shortly afterwards. And it's like, what the hell's what the hell is going on? And those things are, I don't know. I tell these stories to people a lot, and I don't know. They clearly don't have the same impact on other people as they do on me. These things are like, that's not trivial to me. That's huge. That's like a canary in, that's cliche, but canary in the coal mine. That's like fucking red flag, right? Like, and then everyone else is like, oh no, I'm fine, everything's going all over here. It's like, yeah, for now. Like I said to you earlier about the arbitrariness.
Where does this lead?
Yeah. Right. And what will be wrong tomorrow?
Yeah.
You'll point something out that's perfectly reasonable to you.
Yeah,
and then
actually you can't say that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Trickle down intellectualism.
Yeah.
So that's where it leads.
Yeah.
Right, I reckon that's about a divergence point in the topic.
Yeah.
So don't worry, guys. If you're interested in more non-controversial stuff, next time we're talking about Gaza.
I put on a series of events on Israel and Palestine at university. I'll save that for another time.
Yeah, well, I was joking. He ain't. Right, thank you for listening. This has been the Sons of Aries podcast with Matt, Jason, and Dan.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Take care of yourselves.
See ya.